Good evening. I just got home from work. I'm insane, a little disheveled. I smell like maple and other things, so it's not too bad. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk about tonight, I had this big long thing that I was going to read from my journal and talk about that, but it's really late and we've had a bunch of longies in a row, so I thought I'd try to make a little shorty for you. But I wanted to go back, and so there's been two recent videos about spiritual alchemy and how to transform chaos into a positive event or into light or into potential. And it just so happens that it's funny, as soon as you start learning about something or teaching about something, it's like the universe is like, oh yeah, you sure you know about that? Let's test you. And you're like, no. So I've had a couple of interesting days that are really like specifically testing me in my finances, because that is the current workshop I'm doing in To Be Magnetic, Unblocked Money. And it's like, as soon as you start doing any work or any growth in a certain spiritual area, any focus, you're going to start getting tested. And it may not be specifically tests that are related to the event or to the subject matter that you're working on, but it could be anything. And so many things are connected that don't seem like they would be connected. So I had these like back-to-back tests and things that, you know, were triggering me with money this weekend. And so I wanted to kind of unpack that and show you in real time how you can be in the midst of chaos and not self-sabotage or contribute to more domino effects of unraveling mania. So basically, there's a bunch of things, but I think that I'll try to sum them up quickly. So I had like a student loan thing come up that was an issue that I'm like trying to look into, but it's, you know, it's student loan stuff. So that was stressful. And then there were some other things within the family. And then I noticed that like I had this feeling that I needed to look at my paycheck stubs because I have this bad luck where when I worked in film, or I mean, I guess I still do technically, you can't really quit a freelancing career, but like I just am like hiatusing right now. And so I'm always having to get paid through different payroll companies, and every single gig that you work on, unless it's like an ongoing like series that comes back and you do more episodes, it's like new paperwork all over again, new everything, new payroll. So I was always getting like my checks lost in the mail. Like I was always having to call these payroll companies and they're like, oh, sorry, you fell through the crack of a desk somewhere. Do you know how many cracks of desks that I have fallen through in these modern times? I'm like, does anyone still have a crack in a desk anymore? I don't know. Is anything paper or real? So I have a history of having to follow up and like bust some kneecaps to get paid. So I was like, okay, I need to check my paycheck stubs and compare them to like my receipts for when I leave at the end of every shift. Because we tip out and stuff, but the restaurant does it for us so that there's no like, that person didn't pay me enough, blah, blah, blah. Like they just do it for you. But I still hadn't figured out like how to anticipate that, or what, like exactly what payroll week was like on the check that we're on. And so it seemed like my check was like for like 40% less than I anticipated. And I was like, even with tip out and taxes, like that can't be right. And so initially I was already stressed about money, and I was like, like I'm going to have to go down there. And I was trying to be proactive. I did pause. So when you feel triggered, you don't want to act while you're triggered, because you want to, whatever you do, you want to do it from a consciousness of certainty that you feel like kind of even keel and that like everything is going to be fine. You don't want to be like in the midst of passion. You don't want to have like a 3rd degree freak out or 1st degree freak out, right? So I tried to pause and I was like, okay, what's proactive? So I got all of my little receipts out. I got my little trusty highlighter and I printed out my paycheck stubs and I started going to work. And I started doing the sleuthing. And I had everything all like paper clipped and like organized. And I was like, I'm going to go down there now because I live close by. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be working in a couple of days. I don't need to be rolling in there like when they're not expecting me and like being like, hey, can you stop what you're doing and like take care of this? I was like, that is going to be the wrong energy because I'm like still anxious. I can feel it. I'm only like consciously like calmed down, but like I can still feel that I'm disrupted. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to wait it out until I go to work, and then I'll take my little folder in, and if there's a good time during the shift, like I'll ask them about it, and then if they need me to, I'll just email them about it instead. So I went in tonight, so I actually, well, I'll slow down. Before I went in tonight. So that brings us to today. Or no, yesterday. Sometime this weekend. I don't know what day it is. I think I just worked Saturday night. So yeah, this was all happening between like Thursday and Friday. So I was kind of stressed, and then I saw that like our schedule had come out for the next week, and I only had 2 shifts, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like, this is a slow season in Nashville right now for like all of service industry, for entertainment. Like January and February is just like slow. So I'd already been anticipating this, and for the most part I felt fine. I've been like, it's gonna be slow, anticipate the nerves, it's all gonna pass. I've never been evicted in my whole life of being way more like having way less money than I do now. But you just get there, you know, sometimes you just get that financial terror that just like comes over and you're like, oh, I'm on the brink of oblivion, and you're really not, but you're like, oh, everything feels so vulnerable at the moment. So I was feeling a bit vulnerable, and I was like, oh no, there's only I only have 2 shifts this week. So I was like, you know what? Be proactive. You can pick up a shift. People are always trying to get rid of shifts. So I was like, okay, I'll open my little Hot Schedules app. And not an affiliate for Hot Schedules. And there was a shift available to pick up. So I picked it up, and it was like, reason why. And I was like, I would love to work. And they denied the shift. And I was like, well, maybe it's because that person was a very seasoned server, and I haven't, you know, I'm new again and starting at it. I've been doing film, so I haven't been serving. So maybe they're just like, she's not quite fast enough to keep up to replace this professional gem over here. So I was like, okay, fine. Maybe somebody else will release a shift. So instead of panicking and getting discouraged and like talking myself down and being like too anxious to even face life and like, oh, I don't want to work on a Saturday night anyway. It's going to be busy and I'm not going to be able to find the right wine buttons and I'm going to get all flustered. I was like, no, I'll be fine. So I get on the app again about an hour later, and there's another shift. And I was like, okay, this was mine. I'm going to do it. And I picked it up, and it worked out. So I was like, yay. So I was like, I'll take my check-in and figure it out. But this morning I woke up, and I don't know. It's like, even though I'd been doing the proactive things and I felt better, I still woke up this morning, and, you know, lately I have been feeling really good. And I haven't had a lot of mood swings. And granted, I am feeling a little premenstrual, but today I just felt really heavy. And just that, the heaviness of kind of like fear and anxiousness and dread and a little bit of like a touch of despair. You know, it wasn't sadness and it wasn't super frustrated. It was just like, oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard and like never getting ahead. And I'm just like destined to be a salmon swimming upstream. That kind of like despair. And I was like, I cannot go here. Like, I can't put myself in a bad mood, because then I'm going to go into the restaurant tonight and I'm going to attract bad tables and I'm going to get bad tips and I'm going to be insane. And I was just like, I've got to turn this around. So I spent the day choosing to see it differently. And I did a meditation that's one of these like, it's an active meditation where you get into like a hypnotic state and you go through a process. So I did that, and that helped a bit. I did some journaling, and that helped a little bit, but I still felt like ugh. And I was just like, okay, pause. We learned this in Kabbalah. Pause, what a pleasure. Why is this in my movie? And so in that moment I had to pause, and I had to say, okay, you know what I learned in Kabbalah and what they teach is that any day that goes by where you don't experience fear, lack, or doubt is actually a waste, because you don't get to transmute any darkness into light that day. When we really get to transmute and alchemize darkness into light, it's when we have a chance to exercise and strengthen and express our certainty and our faith, and a feeling of being securely held, and knowing that everything is going to play out fine, and just doing my best to bring the best of myself to the situation and act in the highest good for everybody involved, or at least attempt to. So I was like, okay, so I have fear, lack, and doubt right now. Pretty potent fear, lack, and doubt. And I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity. Like, I can turn this around. I can alchemize it. I can transmute that chaos into potential. So all of that fear, all of that dread, all of the everything that was just like stewing in me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to proactively, I had done this the day before, but this was part of this. I was like, I'm going to go set every single day this week up to auto pickup. So all the days off that I have in between, I'm just going to set myself up to where if anybody releases a shift, that I'll be in line to pick up that shift. And so I'm trying to turn my day around today and feel better, and realizing that I have this opportunity with the fear, lack, and doubt. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm already doing better than I was, because what I could have done the other day is gone down to the restaurant in the state of fear, lack, and doubt. You never want to act when, you never want to send the email when you're still mad or when you're angry or whatever. You never want to take the action when you're still disturbed, when you're still aggravated or whatever, unsettled. So had I gone down there that day, I probably would have run into them not expecting me. They would have had to stop what they're doing and deal with it. And I would have been like over the top and extra for showing up when I'm not even working that day, and like going, you know, and like maybe not calling or like emailing or whatever. And that could have just snowballed into more chaos, more misunderstandings. Like I would have been more, I don't know, like difficult than I needed to be. I could have just like done it the harmonious way, right? So that was so great that I did not go in, because I could feel, having like looked back on hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that I just handled it better. I handled it when I went in tonight, and everything was fine. So I was just feeling anxious about work, and I hadn't been feeling anxious about work. Oh, and this is one of the reasons why. Because first of all, I had been involved in this traumatizing fiasco involving a steak that got sent, my table steak went out undercooked. And so I took it back to the kitchen. This was on Valentine's night. This was on their Valentine's date. I took it back, and somehow it got run, like it was supposed to be run out by manager, but somehow like the steak slipped through the cracks, and some rando took my steak to the table, but like gave it to the table next to them with like the date not having any food, and they didn't have any evidence that they had been eating it at all. It was just like, wow, no appetizers, nothing. You're just gonna like deliver the steak to this table with like nothing else on it, but like the other table next to it is like the girls sitting there eating dinner. And I think that I told them like, I think it's 206, or like L6, but it was like a new table brought in because we had to move the furniture, and I was already kind of like weeded at that moment. And so I was visibly flustered, and like the person who I was communicating to, I was like, I don't know. And I had like this stack full of dishes, so I couldn't go back and like look to double check. So I thought maybe they would, or they were like, a manager will take it out. So yeah, so I just trusted people to handle it, and I still tried to go and be there for the steak to go out, but there was other food coming out of the kitchen that had to run. So I wasn't able to like escort the steak, and it went to the wrong table. So this guy just starts eating this dude's steak next to him, and the guy's like, that's my steak. And so it was just this whole awful fiasco. And so I'm just like scarred for life. And then also I've gotten like 2 bad wine openers in a row that were just like fucked to begin with, like, and so I've just been like struggling and like wrestling with like these bottles at this table, and I'm just like, I cannot embarrass myself one more time with a bad wine key. So I went over to Green Hills, which is more chaos because Green Hills is like Mordor. It is a luxurious mall with, I don't know, apocalyptic traffic at all times. And I was just feeling like, okay, I'm already like feeling on edge. I'm already anxious. Like the last thing I want to do is go to Green Hills Mall. Everybody is so entitled there, and like rude and like all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to keep myself, fear, lack, and doubt. I'm going to maintain. I'm going to force myself into this good mood. And I had been praying all day. I'd been doing Hebrew prayers. I watched a video of the Anabacoach, which is the 42 letter name of God that, that's a whole other thing to go in and explain, but it is saved in one of my my playlists. If you check the spirituality and inspiration, the Anabacoach is in that. And so I watched that prayer because you scan the Hebrew letters and then it tells you in English what's going on, and then it's set to music, so they're singing the Anabacoach, and then you're like reading it and scanning. And so it's a very like, the more emotional you can get during these processes, like the more powerful and poignant they are. That's why Magick is like an art, because you kind of have to be able to summon like all different kinds of feelings, you know, at the drop of a hat. So I'm like, I've been praying all day. I'm like on the way to Green Hills. I'm just like, oh my God. And I get there and there's like no parking anywhere. The parking garage is full. I can't find a spot anywhere. Everybody's like, you know, like going too fast and yelling at each other. And I'm just like, oh God, like I just need to get out of here. So I found a spot that opened up right outside. Like I finally got spit out of the parking garage because there was just nowhere else to go. And it was like, get out, you know, when you're like, oh, I exited, I didn't mean to. But then there was like a spot opening up right next to the door. So I was like, yes, thank you, God. So I went into the mall. I went into Crate and Barrel to get this wine key to try to get a good one. And I walk in and immediately I see this dude and he's just waiting to help. And I was like, I saw that you had double jointed like wine tools. Do you know where they are? And he's like, yeah, over there. And then like I walked over, I grabbed it, and then I walked up to the cash register, and there was like one person in line ahead of me. And then the manager lady was like, oh, is that all? You can come around. Like she was like, I want everybody taken care of. I don't want anybody to have to wait. I'm just like, why is everybody so impatient here? Like, it's just like, it's not even a line. It's just like one person in front of me. She's like, God, thank you so much for your patience. I was like, I didn't wait. It was like everybody helped me in the store. Like nothing went wrong. And I'm thinking like, they're probably taking so much abuse here. But, I was just like, okay, great. So I just tried to like leave sunshiny energy in that store. And I left, and I was still determined to get in a good mood because I wasn't in a good mood. And I actually prayed to Jesus. I was like, Jesus, please give me the section in the patio that doesn't have the big table so that it's like maintainable for me, because I'm still getting my sea legs again. And I don't want to be weeded. I don't want to be weeded. And I was like, okay, so I can just have like this manageable section. Please, like no fiascos. I really just don't want I'm not up for a learning experience tonight. Jesus, please give me an easy shift with high value tables, easy money, good people in good moods. I'm here to tell you, I made like a very high percentage in my tips tonight, and all my tables were nice. I got the section that I wanted. Everything turned around. I made tons of money. And then I went and asked about, I went into the office to ask about my check, and they were all like telling me what a good job that I did. And they were all like laughing around, and, you know, and they were like, yeah, let's look at your check. And they explained it to me. And it just was that, the days that I thought were supposed to be on there weren't. I had my pay week mixed up. And so that was it. And so then I found out like, oh, okay, great. So I have more money than I think coming. And I made great money tonight, and my mood did turn around. Like I got to work, and my nephew and his wife works there, and they were like, "How's it going?" And I was like, "I don't feel like much my sprightly self." But by the middle of the shift, I had turned it around, and I was happy. I left happy, and I'm happy now. So yeah, so when you find yourself in that stress, pause and realize that the only time we really get to exercise our faith and like stretch it and kind of imagine Mario when he like jumps off the thing and he grabs the coin. When we can turn those dark moments around, that's like us grabbing that coin, that little life force and it shoots up like our little, like, you know how like some of the video games it shows like their life level, like it shoots up your life level, in a way, you know, you get more light. and you raise your vibration, you elevate your consciousness, and you open yourself up to better experiences. Had I stayed in a crappy mood, I already know how that day would have gone. I would have probably been arrested at Green Hills Mall for like going 8th. And then I would have been arrested again at work because I would have gone insane and started like flipping out and like flipping tables. Not really, but like it would have been a bad night, and I would have been getting worse tables, and people would have been misunderstanding me. And so always just see it as an opportunity to turn things around. And you really do get more points. Not really like more points, but it counts for more. It creates more light even in the other realms when we overcome something that's difficult, rather than if we just had a good day and kept staying in a good mood. You know, like if the opponent side is trying to ruin our day or whatever it is, and we don't let it, and then we actually foil their plan and use it against them and like make our situation even better, we win. It's huge. It's huge for the upper realms, because you know what? We're not just elevating ourselves, we're elevating the people around us. We're elevating in like other dimensions that we don't even realize that we have an effect over. So I hope that made some kind of sense. I've got like mascara all over my face. I've had like crazy hair the whole time. I swear it's real. It doesn't look like it right sometimes. Yeah, I'm so tired. Now I'm going to heat up dinner and start winding down, try to get sleepy and I'm rewatching The Americans. I love it. And I feel about like Elizabeth and Philip in the final seasons when they're tired and they're like, if I have to move one more dead body, I swear. But, yeah. So, good night. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm really excited. We have a lot of reservations and very few people working, and my boss is trying to get more people to pick up tomorrow night, and so I'm really looking forward to it. And we sold out of a lot of food tonight, so there's nothing for anybody to order tomorrow. So there'll be another opportunity to change darkness into light, and to face fear, lack, and doubt, because that's everything right there. Out of food, afraid of what's gonna happen tomorrow, doubting I can keep up. So we'll see how it goes. I'll be reporting what happens tomorrow night. Fingers crossed. Y'all pray for me. Pray that I'll have a good shift. Pray that it'll be manageable. Love you. Bye.